This is a very rich community in terms of the creativity, the work ethic, the contributions that individuals have made, but there are a great number of disparities. Giving is bidirectional. The community and the donors give to us as a foundation, and we give back to the community. That is something that our donors have appreciated and resonated with them for many, many years.
Thanks for joining the CBIA BizCast powered by Google. I'm Amanda Marlowe. Today we are joined by Jay Williams, President and CEO of the newly minted Greater Hartford Gives Foundation. And I'm looking down because it's formerly the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. Jay, welcome to the BizCast.
Amanda, thank you for having me. And I would look down too. I'm going to try to discipline myself to say the new name. It's probably a good career move for me to say the new name of the organization right. So we'll help each other out.
All right. Sounds good. And I do want to get into that and the rebrand. But first, let's talk a little bit about who is Jay.
Sure.
Tell me a little bit about where you came from and how you got to be here and working in the nonprofit space.
Happy to do that. So I'm originally from Youngstown, Ohio. And for those of your listeners who may be history buffs or geography buffs, they will know that Northeast Ohio was once a part of the Connecticut Western Reserve. There was 120 miles of Northeast Ohio that was a part of Connecticut when the states were forming, and ultimately that became incorporated to be a part of Ohio. So there are lots of familiar towns that have similar names back in Youngstown and Cleveland, Northeast Ohio, that have similar names here.
When you're talking to your family, you have to
absolutely.
Really identify.
Which Avon am
Yes.
I talking about? Which, yeah, lots of similarities. So born and raised in Youngstown, Ohio, graduated from Youngstown State University, got into banking. Ultimately got into public service in Youngstown, Ohio, and ran for and was elected mayor of Youngstown, Ohio back 20 years ago. Wow, 2005. I was the youngest and first Black mayor of Youngstown, Ohio. After serving one full term and part of a second term, I was asked to join the Obama administration, having met then Senator Obama during a campaign stop. So ended up in D.C. for 6 years in a few positions, all directed toward economic and community development. And at the end of the administration, my wife and I thought about going back to Ohio, and our son and my mom, who lived with us, thought about getting back into elected office. And lo and behold, the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving was doing a CEO search. And that's what brought me here to Hartford. Although I'd come to Hartford prior to that for an assignment, that's what actually precipitated the move to Hartford.
Wow. So really those executive searches
serendipitous.
Do something, right?
They do, right. I'd heard of them and I'd not ever participated in one. And so it happened. And when they said that this is an organization in Hartford, Connecticut, I said I was in Hartford about 18 months ago, actually meeting some of the same people that I ultimately met when I landed here, but went through the interview process, was very humbled and pleased that the board selected me as the president and CEO back in 2017.
And so how does one go from banking to interest in public service? Had it always been kind of in the back of your head?
That's a great question. I'd always liked and observed in politics and public service in general. Didn't necessarily see myself as getting into that as a career. Thought I was going to run a small community bank. But what happened is banking changed. It got away from relationship banking, got into more the commercial banking, the automated underwriting, which to me was less appealing because I like people. I like to engage. And the city of Youngstown was looking for a director of community development. When I saw the city was interviewing, I met with then mayor, and he said, listen, if you're willing to leave the bank and come work for a municipality, he said, I would be, dumb not to hire you. And then the president of the bank said, you're leaving the bank to go work for a city. You realize that's a dead-end job. You're going to lose your stock options. And I said, listen, I appreciate everything that I've learned, all that's been invested in me, but I see this as a position to really impact the city that I'm from, that was going through some economic turmoil and had been going for a very long time. So left the bank to go work for the city as director of community development and didn't look back. And then being up close and personal, seeing it, one thing led to another, and I ultimately decided that, I didn't decide, it was sort of collectively decided that as the mayor was terming out, that there was a need for a change in leadership, change in direction in the politics of Youngstown. And that's when I decided to throw my hat into the ring and run for mayor.
So really that passion kind of fueling?
For service, right. Not for politics, but for public service and for sort of underdog cities like Youngstown. Anybody knows Youngstown, a scrappy city that was a steel city, a fighting blue-collar city. Reminds me a lot of Hartford, that had been written off. It was sort of the poster child for the deindustrialization of the Midwest and of the country. And people were defining Youngstown by its failures. And we felt that there was an opportunity to define Youngstown not by its failures, but instead how it was going to tackle its future.
Wow. It's quite the background.
It's been interesting. I appreciate it. I'm humbled by it. But every piece of it has allowed me to take something and learn and use it in my subsequent positions. And from there, getting into DC and all the while seeing nonprofit organizations and philanthropic organizations play a critical role when this opportunity at now the Greater Hartford Gives Foundation, then Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, presented itself. The board was actually looking for someone with some community and economic development background. And to me, I was like, this is the perfect combination. If someone said, write your next perfect job, this would have been it. But I'm not sure I could have seen it as wonderfully as it's been.
So, in each step of your career,
right.
Obviously you've taken away a little something. I'm sure there's things even from your banking days that you're still using now. Tell us a little bit about what you've kind of carried over into this new role.
Well, one of the things I think I've never explicitly sought out a specific position, right? So I've been blessed and fortunate that each position has sort of emerged out of the previous position, from getting into banking to the public service to running for mayor to joining the administration, which I didn't have explicit aspirations to do, but when your secretary calls and says the White House is on the phone, that you kind of take that call. But with each of those, right, that opportunity, and it was a tough decision because I was the mayor of my hometown in my second term. And it's like, you just don't step down from being mayor. Like, this is a commitment you made. But what was humbling to me is this. A lot of people were like, yeah, you got to go. Like, this is the first African-American president. Like, you can't not do this, Jay. We appreciate your mayor and we want you here, but you got to go. And I think being able to take those lessons of humility, of, there's nothing wrong with ambition. But I wasn't like, oh, I got to go work in this. I got to be the mayor. I got to go work in administration. I got to run this organization. Being able to offer, I think, the willingness to be flexible, to be creative, but also have a clear vision. I think that's one of the things with each of those is a vision of how, if given the opportunity, I would like to have led the city of Youngstown. When I landed here, an organization that, again, was 92 years old, but a vision of this organization over the next 10 to 15 years, being able to articulate that vision, surround yourself with people who are immensely talented and passionate. Every one of my VPs knows their respective area and probably better than I would ever in 100 years. But to assemble those teams and be able to take that experience from the bank to the city to Washington, D.C. to here, assembling the best and the brightest and sort of unleashing has served every one of those organizations well. And to me, that's been the most refreshing and exciting to be a small part of putting those teams together and leaving the organizations better off when you leave than it were when you arrived.
And so when you come in 8 years ago, right, you're still walking into an organization that's 90 years old.
Absolutely.
What kind of things did you, when you walked in, what were some of the things that you were looking at? Mm-hmm. And when did you guys kind of start to see, okay, let's change up the vision a little? Great
question. So the organization was, again, about 92 years old. Had established a wonderful reputation, highly respected, highly regarded organization. So I was blessed to walk into an organization that had a lot of credibility, a lot of history, that had done a significant amount of good. And at the same time, the board made it clear that they wanted the organizations to start leaning in a new and different way, to be more proximate to the communities, to the challenges and the opportunities, to be more approachable. One of the things we did early on was did a 29-town listening tour. The foundation covers 29 towns in central Connecticut. So we went to every one of those towns and just listened to what we had done, that was good and what we had done well, but also where we could do better. Where have we fallen short? And the board was very emphatic about making sure that we remained relevant, not not because we were concerned of our financial strength. That was something that we were very proud of, and the stewardship of the past boards of directors and past leaders of the organization and the staffs had stewarded the organization financially exceptionally well. But the board was also understanding that there was a changing landscape in Hartford and the 28 other towns, and that we needed to change to remain relevant and impactful. So I think that was of great appeal to me, having come from the background that I did, to take the helmet of an organization with a great staff, a great support from the board, but facing some challenges as we thought about, these next 5 to 10 years. And I think that was the perfect combination to land at that time.
And, when we talk about, yes, Hartford is in its name, Greater Hartford,
right?
Now, but talk a little bit about, who you serve,
sure,
and the mission.
Absolutely. So the mission of the Greater Hartford Gives Foundation is really about putting philanthropy into action to create, lasting solutions to help add vibrancy to all the 29 towns that we serve. And there's a strategic focus that we have really about helping to dismantle structural racism and help build equitable opportunities in areas of basic human needs, employment and education opportunities, what we call thriving neighborhoods, civic and resident engagement, and helping increase opportunities and inclusivity around the arts. This is a very rich community in terms of the creativity, the work ethic, the contributions that individuals have made. But there are a great number of disparities. Connecticut, as you're probably aware, has one of the highest disparities in terms of wealth and income, housing opportunity, health, and quality of life in the country. And those disparities are very much present here in the Greater Hartford region. So one of our commitments, one of our central commitments, is to help to try to lessen those disparities. We think that it is a mission that helps to improve the quality of life overall for everyone. There is no one in Greater Hartford that wouldn't benefit from fewer disparities, from greater opportunity. And we think that that is something that our donors have appreciated and resonated with them for many, many years. So in that vein, our mission and our focus has really allowed us to grow, to be more tangible to individuals who are philanthropically inclined, to nonprofit organizations, and to the Greater Hartford community.
And in your centennial year, which just wrapped up,
yes,
you guys really took some big initiatives.
We did.
To play directly to that mission.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. That 25 was a whirlwind of a year. We started off last year with the announcement of recapitalizing a philanthropic fund that every town has. So we initiated a program 5 or 6 years ago, but for our centennial anniversary, each of those towns got a fresh $100,000 for grant making. And the grant making is done not by the foundation, but by volunteers in each of those 29 towns. So we're excited about that. And then in April, we had a huge announcement with our Greater Future Scholarship, which is a partnership with Hartford Promise. And what it provides up to $100,000 in scholarship financial assistance to Hartford Promise scholars, in addition to a decade's worth of wraparound support services. So academic, internships, mental health, anything a student might need to navigate college successfully is provided, and it gets them into their career. And we were thrilled because while there are Promise programs across the country, this is the most financially robust, with up to $100,000 in addition to those wraparound services. So we were thrilled. And then in December, just a month or two ago, we announced two things: that we were, after 30 years of debate and discussion, changing our name to become the Greater Hartford Gives Foundation, and that we were also going to be building our own headquarters in the north end, the gateway north end of the city of Hartford. So those are the two culminating announcements that we were ecstatic about sharing at the end of last year.
So tell me a little bit more about this name change.
Yes. So it was an interesting journey, to say the least. We found memos in the archives of the foundation dating back 30, 40 years about conversations around our name, which was a Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. And it has posed a handful of challenges. One, when people say Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, there are often questions of whether or not we only serve the city of Hartford. There are many questions that I've encountered over the past 8+ years of whether or not we are a part of the Hartford Insurance Company. Oh, you're the philanthropic arm of the Hartford Insurance Company. We're not. There's a great partner of ours, but we are not related to the notion of public giving. Like, oh, you're a government agency, so where do we come to get assistance? And those have been persistent for 30 years. I mean, I've experienced them frequently over the past 8+ years, but then the memos validated they had been persisting for 30+ years. So we figured if you're going to do something of this magnitude, maybe the centennial is the time to do it, right? So we got with a firm, Big Duck, interesting marketing and branding firm, interesting name, and they led us through a process. We knew a couple of things, right? We knew that we wanted greater to be in the name. We knew Hartford needed to stay in the name. And then after that, we were open to a process. And it was an interesting process, not being a marketing or branding background. When we sort of landed or getting close to the Greater Hartford Gives Foundation, we were excited because it is actionable, right? Giving is bidirectional. The community and the donors give to us as a foundation, and we give back to the community. That's how we landed on Greater Hartford Gives Foundation. Action-oriented, speaks to our breadth of our reach. Really, Hartford as the capital city and the center place of where we remain anchored.
Yeah, so you're really touching on everything, in terms of like scholarship offerings, bringing people together, showcasing, kind of bringing in these big speakers, and now this big buzz around not only your name, but a physical big location. Some significant things just to kind of keep that all, not just to, but that all really help keep the conversation flowing.
100%. Everything we did last year was about celebrating and convening around our community, right? Not self-aggrandizing. We appreciate that we are 100 years old. It was a humbling experience to be able to be a part of this organization as it turned 100, but it was really about the generosity of donors, thousands of donors over those 100 years, right? So from two bankers that started this organization with like $1,000 to now growing to have a $1.3 billion endowment through the stewardship of our predecessors, to be able to convene in each of those towns to thank the donors and the organizations who are our partners, the businesses that we have grown to help facilitate their philanthropic activity, the businesses and individuals who made our first ever campaign a wild success in its first year with 3 years to go. So that entire year was about just trying to convey to the community how deeply appreciative we were and continue to be of their generosity, and to also demonstrate that we are here for good. We are here for the next 100 years, and we're excited about some of the tools and activities that happened last year that will really launch us into our next 100 years.
In terms of your support, right? You talked about, businesses, other donors.
Yep.
Talk to me a little bit about those relationships. How important is that you still continue to have those commitments? They
are absolutely essential. Without those donors, without those supporters, we would not exist. There would be no reason for our existence. And again, it started 100 years ago with two bankers and thousands of individuals and families. And now we're growing our relationship with the corporate community. Those corporations, when they have strong employment base, when they have favorability amongst their customers and their employees, it is good for their bottom line, and it's good for the community.
What are some of the pillars? Obviously, every relationship is different, especially in terms of size. Right. But what are some of the pillars of a good relationship with some of these businesses?
Starts with trust, I think. Trusting that we are an organization that has the best interests of the community at heart, that wants to facilitate that corporation's philanthropic interest. If it's employee engagement and their employees are interested in connecting with nonprofits, we can help them do that because we have relationships with hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of nonprofits across the region. If those corporations know that they've got an organization that has credibility, right? They know that we have a deep and abiding relationship and knowledge of the inner workings of nonprofits across the Greater Hartford region. So if they are interested in vetting a nonprofit and understanding the ins and outs of that nonprofit, we can help them with that. Just having that trust, that authenticity, that credibility, I think is at the core of these relationships when we talk about the business community in particular.
And obviously 2025 was a really impactful year for you, but 2026, is now continuing to put
Yes.
all of these initiatives to use. Tell me a little bit more about what's ahead this year.
Great question. So in 2026, we will have our first cohort of Greater Future Scholars. They will be now in their second year. They went off to college in the fall of 2025, so they'll be entering their second year. We will then have the next incoming class. So we expect with the buzz and the opportunity to get up to $100,000 in scholarship and 10 years of wraparound services, there'll probably be some families who are like, hey, yeah, we're thinking Hartford Promise looks pretty appealing. We're going to be breaking ground for the actual headquarters. And it's more than just a headquarters, Amanda. It's really, we see this as a gateway investment that will be a place where we'll convene our donors. We'll convene nonprofits. They will be able to use space at no cost. We want to assist the small businesses in that Albany Avenue Main Street corridor. We want the citizens and the neighborhood groups to have access. So we're excited about the breaking ground around that. We will also spend a good part of the year with the branding, right? So for 100 years, people talked about the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. Now in our 101st year, it's the Greater Hartford Gives Foundation. So there's going to be a lot of strategy around getting that brand out there, introducing ourselves to people who may not have heard of us in the past, and really continue to make sure we connect with each of those 29 communities. So there's going to be a lot of work as much as 2025 was the execution and we sort of breathed a sigh of relief and we're glad to celebrate 2026. There's going to be no shortage of things to do, in addition to the fact that we're going to have to navigate, what is going to be perhaps a challenging environment for nonprofits with what's happening with the federal funding and the cuts like that. So a lot on our plate.
Yeah, I was going to ask a little bit about, in terms of obviously an organization of your size, but also having been around for 100 years, and you've now, been part of it for almost a decade.
Almost a decade. Wow. Yeah, you're aging me, man. I'm feeling old, Amanda.
But what are some of the biggest challenges that you've had to face, and how have you've gotten through them?
Again, just in the 8 years, 9 years, almost 10 years, certainly COVID, right, was an unprecedented challenge that we had to face and navigate, had to be nimble. We had to be creative. And frankly, we emerged as a stronger, more impactful organization out of that. And that's directly related to the commitment from support from our board and our staff and our donors and our partners. We couldn't do it without them. We've had to navigate, again, what we saw with the federal cuts to whether it's the SNAP benefits or things like that, federal policies that are upending the landscape and financing for nonprofits, the attacks on, so many of the things that perhaps we took for granted or held dear. Change is good. Change is inevitable and you can navigate that change, but sometimes the pace or the inconsistency and the unknown. So when we think about our relationships and the challenges that I think those nonprofits on the front line are going to face, we're fortunate. Like, we're a funder, we're a convener, we build capacity, we do public policy. But we do that always, we remind ourselves with the benefit of having this endowment that provides significant financial cushion and support for us to provide ultimately to the community. We don't know exactly what 2026 is going to look like as we get later on into this year, but we can anticipate with what we've seen in the year past. There's going to be some pretty significant challenges on the horizon.
When I asked you about what was the most important part of your relationships, you said trust.
Right.
And I imagine that trust kind of carries through, especially through challenging times.
Yep.
How do you kind of build that trust with your donors, with your internal staff?
Remaining humble. Knowing that, a trust takes a long time to build and can be destroyed or lost in a second, one decision. We are not a perfect organization. No organization is. We're a learning organization. So trust along with transparency. When we make a mistake, what can we learn from that mistake? People don't invest their philanthropic dollars with organizations they don't trust. So I think demonstrating, why we are a trustworthy organization, both on the financial stewardship, but also in the work that we do to try to improve the quality of life here. Not everyone agrees with every decision that we make. I get that. But I can guarantee that every decision that we make is made with the best interest of the community at heart, even if people don't disagree with it, or even when we get it wrong. The board holds me as the CEO and the staff accountable to a high level of ethical integrity. And I think in doing that, we try to demonstrate that while, again, we will make mistakes, we will make decisions people disagree with, that we always have the community at the center of everything that we do.
I think that's, such an important pillar, and really interesting kind of your take on getting to that point. I want to take a little bit of a step back.
Sure.
We always close out our BizCast episodes, talking a little bit about some advice, right?
Okay.
You've had a long career, obviously not just with the Hartford Foundation.
Right. The Greater Hartford Gives Foundation.
I'm going backwards.
The organization formerly known as formerly known as the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving.
Exactly.
Right?
It's just innate in me.
Gotcha.
But tell us a little bit, what's your biggest piece of advice that you give to, maybe younger leaders,
Sure.
Or companies that are just in a tough time right now? That's
a great question. And while I've had a long career, I still have lots of work to do. Our son is 15 years old, so I'm going to be working for a while. I don't want anybody thinking this is like the farewell tour here. One of the things that I learned early on about leadership is, the most important decision leaders will make is who they surround themselves with, right? Who you appoint on your team will make or break your administration, it will make or break your corporation. I share with my staff that if I'm the smartest person in the room all the time, there's something wrong, right? I want my finance person to know finance like the back of her hand better than I do. And believe me, she does. Bonnie Malley does. I want my strategy VP, my VP of advancement, my VP of marketing communications, my executive assistant. I want them to know their roles in a way that, I will assist when I can, get out of the way when it's appropriate to empower them. One of the things that a pastor of mine who's passed away, Bishop Norman L. Wagner, said early on that it is more important to be impactful than it is to be successful, right? That being relevant and impactful is what you should be focusing on. There's nothing wrong with success. But chasing success for the sake of being successful versus being relevant, relevance is in fact, he said, paramount to success. So that is not to say people shouldn't be successful, but being relevant and impactful. So, and in leadership, you've got to be humble. There are decisions you'll make that you will absolutely get wrong. And I've had some of those decisions on the front page of the newspaper. And believe me, it's not fun. It is not something you aspire to, but you learn from them. And I think the other thing that I'll end with is what I also committed to is I was never going to put myself in a situation where I was going to have to explain to my wife or my son why, they saw me in this situation that just really was antithetical to the character or to the integrity that I tried to demonstrate, right? Far from perfect, plenty of mistakes made. But just to always think about, do I want to have to explain to my son why dad is now no longer, in this position, or why dad is not going to be with the family for, a period of time. So I'm still learning. There's still years I have ahead of me, and I learn something new every day, whether it's from a leader that's been around for decades or someone who's just now coming on the scene. Well, I think we have a lot to look forward to for this year. And we look forward, really to seeing what you guys do. Amanda, appreciate it. Thank you for the time, your enthusiasm. Thanks to CBIA and for everything that you guys do. Well, thank you. And thank you for listening to this week's BizCast. You can listen, like, and subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a review and let us know if you have ideas for a future episode. For more episodes, head over to CBIA.com.